How's everyone today? Marvelous. I'm marvelous. I'm always marvelous, even with the rain and everything going on outside. Just be marvelous anyway. Right. Thank you very much. We're ready to begin our program, and we're going to follow the program as printed.
On a day in which we celebrate and commemorate the coming out speech of a man whose words changed the world. On a day in which we celebrate the comeback victory of a golfer whose exploits have cheered us all.
Yes.
And on a day in which we celebrate and in awe of our Lord and Savior Jesus as he rode into Jerusalem on the back of a colt. Let the words of our mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Let us all say amen.
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 Amen. On behalf of the First African Baptist Church, Pastor Keith Anderson, and the 8th Oratorical Committee and the City of Dublin would like to welcome each of you here this afternoon. And if we can help you any way, assist you in any way, please let us know. So sit back and enjoy the talents.
When they ask you how we approach the oratorical contest today with the storm brewing, tell them like this. We are gathered here this evening to review and celebrate the wonder of events and words which have brought us to this present moment. It is entirely fitting that we do this. In the spring of 2011, then City Councilman at Large, the Honorable Jerry Davis, issued the call to action regarding the approaching Dublin bicentennial. He said it was the time and occasion for a unique celebration centered around an historical occurrence of nearly, at that time, 75 years earlier in 1944, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., at age 15, came to Dublin with his teacher on an interstate bus and spoke here at this church in the oratorical contest and won. In 2012, we heeded the call of Civic Leader Davis, and we mounted such an occasion by reviving the oratorical contest in celebration of Dublin's bicentennial. At that time, the contestants spoke the words lifted from the great speeches of all time, and which spanned the past 200 years. However, the speeches you will hear today have been planned, written, and spoken by the writers and future leaders of our city, our state, and our nation, our own boys and girls, our own young men and young women. In keeping with the great tradition begun by Carter G. Woodson in the establishment of Black History Week, this contest uses the current theme set by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, Black Migrations. There was one young lady who was assigned to be here today to celebrate in an original poem the theme, migration. In her absence, may I share that poem with you? What is migration? Once upon a time, a little bird said, I need a new home so my little tweets can be fed. The family agreed, so the bird family flew to a sunshiny place where the skies are blue, and there was plenty of food, too. There once was a human family living on another human's land. No food in the pantry, no cash in pocket or hand. The family agreed, so the little family left, looking for a new home and a way to feed itself and put food away on the shelf. So whether bird or human, in a matter of work and food, the family may choose to go where food is set on plenty and times are set on good. Now, that's what migration is all about. Birds and people looking for a place to live and eat and be free. So, sit back, relax, and with your attentive presence, affirm and support these young people who will greet us here today with their own words, their own thoughts, and their own researched information relating to the great Black migrations. This then is the occasion why we are here. Attend and be informed.
It is my pleasure to introduce the Oratorical Committee. Please stand and hold your applause until after everyone has been announced. Ms. Marilyn Moore is the chairperson. Ms. Vanessa Brown. Ms. Patricia Charles. Ms. Dolores Davis. Commissioner Jerry Davis. Ms. Carolyn Gentle. Attorney Cheryl Banks Hightower, she's in the back. Ms. Frances Hodges. Ms. Rosetta May. Ms. Brenda Paldo. Ms. Jessie Turner. And I, Janola Burke. Thank you very much. Our judges for this afternoon are Ms. Pat Anderson, retired educator, Lawrence County School System. Dr. Tamara Freeman, my former student, English teacher, middle school, West Lawrence, and Ms. Janice Mosley, retired educator. The timekeepers are Ms. Hodges, Frenchie Hodges, and Ms. Jessie Turner.
When it comes to shopping for lawn and garden, there's one thing that you'll want to remember.
If you can't do business here, you just can't do business.
Take it from Glenn Register, owner of Hometown Supply in downtown Dublin.
Anything they need for us to do, we do. We get warranty with everything, new and used. You can get what we call a tractor style mower that's less expensive than a zero turn is. You can spend basically half the money and do the same job. It just won't do it quite as fast. Come down and look at what we have, service it, we get parts for it. We can take it down there behind the store. We got a place down there we cut, show them everything about it. Take it out, set it up, do the financing on it, payment where you can handle it. You can get whatever you want and just about name your game. This is a one-stop shop. We have a belt for about anything. Either bring us some numbers or bring your old belt in, and that's the key to really knowing, what you need. Yeah, we carry tires, tubes for mowers, replacement wheels. We can get just about anything for any machine you need.
See the man with the plan, Glenn Register. Call 272-0345 for more information.
If you can't do business here, you just can't do business.
This program is brought to you in part by Services by Dudley, established in 1922. Dudley Funeral Home, Dudley Memorial Cemetery. For more information, log on to servicesbydudley.com, call 272-5511, or visit Dudley Funeral Home.
Okay, are you excited? Yes. You ready? Yes. I'm on cloud 9. And I'm good and ready, okay? All right, I want to thank everyone for being here today. We know what the weather is like outside, and I know all of us have gotten those warnings and everything, but you still showed up. So thank you. So let's give ourselves an applause, because we are here. And I certainly want to thank these young people who are here so that we can hear what they think of black migration. Aren't you excited about that? Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Haven Stanley, and I am an 8th grader at Dublin Middle School. Now, you all are most likely here for different reasons. Here to support a loved one, or here just because you want to know that there are still people out there that are aware of our current circumstances. Well, I'm here to make a difference. And so did millions of other African American men and women too. They wanted to be treated with respect and veneration, though they were given the exact opposite. They were treated with cruelty and atrociousness, something no human being should ever have to go through. So now, let's talk about why African Americans migrated from the South. As we all know, slavery is abolished and blacks are freed, though there was still segregation. Now, African Americans were okay with segregation, as long as it was separate but equal. However, it was nowhere near equal. African Americans were given less job opportunities, which forced them to sharecropping, which was very little economical help. Even the schools that were mainly for black children were funded very, very poorly. And if that wasn't enough, there was a group of people that called themselves white supremacists. Now, these people claimed that white was the supreme race. And by the law of the First Amendment, they had the right to speak what they believed. They then soon formed a social group called the Knights of Mary Fagan, as a tribute to a little girl that was molested and killed by a Jew, or so they thought. The acts of the Knights of Mary Fagan slowly but surely became more and more brutal. And that is when the organization known as the KKK, or Ku Klux Klan, was born. The KKK did despicable acts such as extreme taunting, even going as far as to murder hundreds of African Americans, though there was nothing they could do about it. Sure, they protested, but that only intimidated the KKK. It made them want to even continue more of their murderous acts. And by this time, these crimes were inevitable. The more the African Americans tried to get respected, they were respected even less. They were taunted and tormented and cast out among the rest. And while this is happening, World War I is in high gear, which leaves many jobs open, mainly in the North. And yet still, the African Americans were being taunted and abused and taunted and abused and taunted and abused. So they said enough. They had enough. No more. No more living in fear of the people that hate them and go to large extents to hurt them. No more tolerating their conditions because they know they can have more, be more. No more. And so, more and more African Americans heard about the jobs open in the North. So they migrated and tried to find better lives. Now, even though segregation is illegal in the North, there was still a lot of racism. Soon, there became too many African Americans. There became conflict for living space and housing. And hate crimes were becoming more and more common. However, they remembered where they came from. And they said no more. No more conflict. No more struggling. Because they were survivors. And you know what? Because of this housing conflict, they formed their own cities. They took charge of what they believed in. They enhanced their culture from their food to even making their own genre of music, which became very, very popular. However, there is still conflict now. Conflict over land and people who also know they can be more, so they try to migrate too. However, we all have to remember that if our ancestors can make a change, we can too. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Austin Johnson. I am a junior at East Lawrence High School, and I came today to talk to y'all about the Great Migration. So there are 5 major points of migration, and you have slavery, the abolishment of slavery, the first Great Migration, the second Great Migration, and the reverse migration. And I also want to tell you just 5 words to help you understand if you don't understand what migration means. If you know any of these synonyms, we have exodus, flight, passage, trek, and diaspora, and that will help you understand. So the first act was slavery, and this was the original migration, when blacks were forcefully taken from their homes in Africa and forced to be slaves in America. So this was almost a 300-year span, and as stated by Lewis Henry Gates, about majority of them were Angolan, and 40% of them came through Charleston, South Carolina. So it was almost a 360-year period time between all the slavery until 1865, and this is when we move into our next phase. And in 1865, it is the abolishment of slavery, of course, with the 13th Amendment. And the blacks, they mostly migrated away from all the hate and torment, so they was moving more around to the South trying to find jobs and things. And you also see the people such as the KKK, who was formed in 1866, they start to rise. So now they are being scared, and a lot of other people are being discriminated against. So as we move into the third phase, which is the first Great Migration, it started in 1916, and this is when the country was in World War I, and most of the white men were gone fighting the war. So they came in and they took the jobs in the factories, and most of them were up north. So almost about 1.5 million, they went up north to fill in the jobs, and this is where you see all the culture starting to spread. And they created things such as the Harlem Renaissance, which was an explosion of art and passion and culture. And you have people like Louis Armstrong and Langston Hughes, who just inspired blacks around that time. And then we also have them, we just came together in sports, and we also came together in government and other aspects of life. And now you have people growing up, and you see them and their children who are now prospering, and grandchildren, such as Denzel Washington, who is a Golden Globe and an Oscar-winning actor. We have Ella Fitzgerald, Whitney Houston, Tupac, Michael Jackson, and even Ralph Ellison, who is children of some of the grandchildren of these people. And then, of course, until about 1940, this is when it kind of slowed down and it started to pick back up in the second Great Migration, this next phase. In 1940, many of them, instead of moving north, they went west. And in the west, you had the states such as California, Oregon, and Washington, which they moved to. And in California, in the city of Los Angeles, they had the Central Avenue District. It was one of the more prominent black districts in California. And one of the key things that happened in the Central Avenue District was that it was home to the first black man to win the Nobel Peace Prize, who is Ralph J. Bunche. And also had many of the famous people arrive there and stay there because of the Dunbar Hotel, which was a hotel for many of the black celebrities coming through at the time. So now, in the 1970s, instead of the South being about 90% black, the South is only about 40% black now. A lot of the blacks have now moved around the country. And in the 1970s, it started the reverse migration. Now, the reverse migration is when they are coming back home. And they are coming back home because of family ties and economic betterment. They noticed that it was a better cost of living in the South, and they wanted to come home to experience it. And also the families, they didn't want families to die and they not be there. So, in conclusion, the black migration has helped every person to become what they want to be. We have doctors, teachers, lawyers, and all these other kinds of important jobs in our community now that black people are just aspiring, and they're just doing them in now. And it just helps shape America. And all we have to do is keep adding on to their greatness. Thank you.
If you're in the market for affordable transportation, come on in to Dublin Auto Sales. Getting to work, school, or around town every day requires dependable transportation. And that's what you'll find at Dublin Auto Sales, offering in-house financing too, so credit is never an issue. See Wayne Kemp or any of his friendly staff, Bill Topping, Alan Fields, TJ DeRochi, or Freddie Cook. Look for Dublin Auto Sales at 1705 Telfair Street and 406 North Jefferson, and also at 511 North Jefferson, where you'll find a great deal. Dublin Auto Sales, affordable transportation you can count on.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Green, broker with Excel Realty Group. The decision to sell your home is dependent on many factors. Whatever your reasons for selling, my proven effective marketing plans will ensure you the highest possible price for your home. I guarantee to provide you with professional, ethical, and confidential service and keep you well informed every step of the way. Call me at 478-279-2009, or you may email me at tiffanygreen421@gmail.com. Let's get started today.
Before I begin, I just want to dedicate my speech this year to a beloved teacher and community leader we've lost, Miss Monique Blue. I wish you were here today to listen to everyone's thoughts and opinions on the topic at hand. She was a great mentor, and I know that she will be proud of us all here today. May her legacy live on. When I saw the theme was Black migrations, I was immediately flooded, as my mind had so many ideas flowing through my head at one time. I couldn't decide on what to speak on. I was so confused, and I wanted to quit. I know Ms. Blue would counsel me to do otherwise. So then, I thought about Marcus Garvey's determination. If you don't know who Marcus Mosiah Garvey is, I'll be happy to give you some insight. He was a Jamaican-born political leader, journalist, entrepreneur, and orator. He's the founder of the UNIA, which is the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and it stands as one of the most political and social organizations in African American history. It migrated with Garvey to the United States in 1916 and had experienced a sudden massive expansion of membership beginning in the spring of 1919. It was dedicated to racial pride, economic self-sufficiency, and the formation of an independent Black nation in Africa. The Great Migration of African Americans from the South has been called, by historians and demographers, one of the greatest movements of a single race of people from one region of continent to another. As Black industrial workers and entrepreneurs emerged in the urban centers, it came to be a growing number and variety of urban churches and new religions. Also, there were new music forms like ragtime, blues, and jazz. As Louis Armstrong stated, if you don't feel it, you'll never know it. The prohibition of the 1920s saw the rise of the jazz age in the U.S., cementing this style and sound into the American culture. During this time, the Red Summer of 1919, which was a century ago, had 26 racial conflagrations. These racial fires that swept the nation between April and November of that tumultuous year did some serious damage. In Elaine, Arkansas, whites attacked a meeting of Black sharecroppers who were organizing to demand further treatment in the cotton market. After a white person was shot, federal troops were called in to quell the violence. But instead, they joined white mobs in hunting Black residents for several days. More than 200 Black men, women, and children were killed. The persistence of unpunished lynching contributed to the mob mentality among white men and fueled a new commitment to self-defense among Black men who had been emboldened by war service. Literally, the white men were just going around killing Black people without any chastisement. The persistence of unpunished lynching contributed to the mob mentality among white men and fueled a new commitment to self-defense among Black men. Literally, the voice of the use of a deadly force by police against an unarmed Black American carries with it the weight of historical injustices and current disparities in the use of state violence and against Black Americans. Imagine how hard it had to be to strive through the pain of just being hated just because you're alive. All of the mental and physical stress pushed out visual and literary art as just one way to deal with the community actions around them. The Harlem Renaissance was an intellectual, social, and artistic explosion centered in Harlem, New York, spanning the 1920s. At the time, it was known as the New Negro Movement. During the Great Migration, over 175,000 African Americans moved there. Embracing literary, musical, theatrical, and visual arts, participants sought to reconceptualize the Negro apart from the white stereotypes that have influenced Black people's relationship to their heritage and to each other. The movement laid the groundwork for all later African American literature and had an enormous impact on the subsequent Black literature and consciousness worldwide. While the Renaissance was not confined to the Harlem district of New York City, it attracted a remarkable concentration of intellect and talent and served as the symbolic capital of this cultural awakening. To this day, the Black migration has left a lasting impact in my African American history. It has inspired me to be determined, always fight for what's right, express myself in any way possible. I send out a thank you to my African American ancestors. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kamisha Miles, and I'm a 12th grader at Dublin High School. Today, I will inform you on the impact of Black migration. Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African American female astronaut, once said, "Never be limited to the people's limited imaginations." Black migration came along because of limitations, with the help of racial inequality and the lack of better opportunities for people of our color. During the period of 1916 and through 1970, Black migration, known as the Great Migration, became a Black movement. Around 6 million of African Americans moved out of the rural southern United States to the urban Northeast and Midwest and West. African Americans took their traditions from states such as Mississippi and South Carolina and migrated to the northern cities such as New York, Detroit, and Chicago. The arrival of Harlem Renaissance in the New York City as a result of Black migration, the Black urbanization of American cities, and the impact of Black migration has had an impact on American art and culture. The Harlem Renaissance was during the late 1910s and the mid-1930s. The Black culture thrived in northern Manhattan. This movement was believed to be one of the main initiators of the African Americans' rebirth, artistically, culturally, economically, educationally, politically, and socially, in the Western Hemisphere during the past 100 years. During this time, blues, jazz, and music blossomed. Artists and writers attracted millions from the African diaspora. The Harlem Renaissance allowed African Americans to resurrect themselves and go from being portrayed as uneducated country bumpkins to projecting positive images of themselves, and also articulate progressive and sophisticated artists and intellectuals. Duke Ellington, W.E. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, who once said, "The Black man must build on his own basis, apart from the Caucasian man foundation, if he ever hopes to be a master builder." Paul Robeson, Josephine Baker, Langston Hughes, who once said, "I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody dare say, eat in the kitchen. Then besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America." Hubert Harrison. If you may not know these names, there are a few African Americans who helped fuel the movement and showcase how powerful Black people are. They showcase this in their own ways by using their talents. They show that, in fact, they aren't limited by others' limitations or imaginations, and they thrived on it. For instance, W. Du Bois, who was an African American socialist, historian, and economist, who devising the self-promotion and awareness of African American civil rights through the development of African American culture, economics, and social presence. Duke Ellington was a jazz musician who showed that there's no limitations when playing regularly at a whites-only club called the Cotton Club. Langston Hughes was a poet and a social activist who had his tremendous influence on Black culture. Langston Hughes used his talent in writing, saying what millions of African Americans felt about in racial inequality. Hughes praised the positive aspects of Black people and culture through his writings. For instance, "The night is beautiful, so the faces of my people. The stars are beautiful, so the faces of my people. Beautiful also are the souls of my people." As you can see, the Great Migration relocated hundreds of thousands of African Americans to the urban North, where they discovered shared common experiences and present circumstances. Instead of indulging themselves in self-pity, however, the recently dispossessed fueled an explosion of intelligence that cultivated culture, pride, and exploded into new discovered talents in art, literature, music, and intellectual growth. African Americans who were reborn to the Harlem Renaissance as it reflects the age of emergence of the Black talent and acceptance into society. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Grace with Myers Equipment and Supply, your dealer for the complete line of Can-Am side-by-sides and ATV products. For hunting, farming, or riding the trails, Can-Am has the models you need. If you choose the Can-Am Defender side-by-side, which is engineered to maximize a hard day's work on the farm or on a hunt, Defenders offer 20% more torque than its rivals. You can carry 1,000 pounds of payload or tow 2,000 pounds of cargo. You will appreciate Can-Am's precision engineering and industry-leading performance. Come into Myers Equipment today and see the full line of Can-Am ATVs and side-by-sides. Can-Am, the ride says it all.
Come to Roach Farm and Garden and take home something beautiful. Our Gardens by the River has an excellent selection of statuaries, bird baths, fountains, and a wide variety of flowers, fruit trees, and shrubs. Or come inside and take a look at our decorative accents. Our friendly staff will help you find just what you need for your next outdoor project. And we carry those unique items that are hard to find. Come visit us today. Roach Farm and Garden, Dublin.
Roach Farm and Garden, growing traditions.
Now we're down to the closing part of the ceremony where we're going to have presentations by Ms. Janola Burt and Ms. Marilyn Moore, followed by remarks by the Honorable Jerry Davis and acknowledgments by Ms. Moore, and our closing remarks and benediction by our most illustrious Reverend Bland.
We would like to thank our judges for taking time out to come out and help us this afternoon. Ms. Janice Mosley, would you please come forward? She got it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Tamara Freeman.
Thank you so much.
Miss Patricia Anderson. Now statisticians. Attorney Cheryl Banks Hightower. And Miss Lily Hawk.
Thank you so much.
Okay, for our middle school, $100 goes to Haven E. Stanley. High school, third place, $25, Kamisha A. Miles. Second place, $50. Austin Johnson. And our first place winner, Aviance Marshall.